This is Art Television.
Coming up, State of Business, sponsored by...
Manage all your SLT Mobitel services through the MySLT app.
IWS Aviation.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Shine Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. Private sector borrowing for June shows decline. Government moves to end its legal remittances. News in detail. The Cabinet of Ministers at its meeting yesterday approved the restructuring of the Ceylon Electricity Board. It also green-lit the revision of the tariff rates for renewable energy projects. The measures were announced today at the Cabinet Decision media briefing by Cabinet spokesperson Bandula Gunawarthana.
ඒ අනුව ඊයේ කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාවක් ඉදිරිපත් කළා. 1950 අංක 19 දරන අවුරුදු 72ක් පැරණි මේ ඛනිජ තෙල් නීතිගත සංස්ථා පනත සංශෝධනය කරන්නත් ඒ වගේම සමස්ත බලශක්ති ව්‍යුහයේ ඇතිවන ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කිරීම වෙනස් කිරීම සංශෝධනය කිරීම සඳහා බලයලත් කොමිටියක් පත් කරන්න ඊයේ කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාවක් ඉදිරිපත් කළ කාංචන විජේසේකර අමාත්‍යතුමා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ මේ කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාවට අනුමැතිය ලබා දුන්නා. විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලය විදුලි බලයේ නිෂ්පාදනයේ විදුලි බලයේ බෙදා හැරීම හා විදුලි බලය නව බල උත්පාදන මාර්ග පිළිබඳ කටයුතු කිරීම යනාදියට පුළුල් බලතල සහිත කමිටුවක් මසක් ඇතුළතදී මේ අවශ්‍ය සංශෝධනා ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කිරීම පිළිබඳ යෝජනා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට ඉදිරිපත් කළා. කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය හරහා ඒ කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන සියලු යෝජනා සම්පූර්ණ විනිවිද පේන ආකාරයට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නට ඊයේ දිනේදී කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ කාංචන විජේසේකර අමාත්‍යතුමාට අවසරය ලබා දුන්නා.
During this media briefing, Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment Manush Nanayakara announced that the Cabinet of Ministers has agreed to two proposals to encourage remittances through legal channels. One is a duty-free allowance based on the amount of remittances transmitted, and the other is license to import electrical vehicles equivalent to 50% of remittance transmitted through legal channels.
මේ රටේ දැනට වාහන ගේන්න ඉඩ දෙන්නේ නැහැ. මේ රටේ මොනම විදියකටවත් දැන් කොවිඩ් කාලේ ආරම්භ වෙච්ච කාලේ ඉඳලම රථ වාහන ආනයනයට ඉඩ දෙන්නේ නැහැ. මෝටර් සයිකලයක්වත් ආනයනය කරන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ. එතකොට මේ රටට මේ විදේශ විනිමය එවන උදවිය වෙනුවෙන්ම විදේශගත ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයා වෙනුවෙන්ම මේ විශේෂ පැකේජය හඳුන්වා දීලා තියෙනවා. එතනදී ඩොලර් 3000ට වඩා කවුරු හරි කෙනෙක් ලංකාවට එවනව නම් තමන්ගේ ගිණුමට හරි තමන්ගේ ඥාතියාගේ තමන්ගේම කෙනාගේ ගිණුමට වෙන වෙන අයගේ ගිණුමට එවලා හරියන්නේ තමන්ගේ ගිණුමට හරි තමන්ගේ පවුලේ කෙනෙක්ගේ ගිණුමට හරි තමන් එවලා තියෙනවා නම් ඩොලර් 3000ට වැඩියෙන් යම්කිසි මුදලක් ඒ අයට ඒ එවපු මුදලේ අඩ වටිනාකමකට බයිසිකලයක් ඉලෙක්ට්‍රික් මෝටර් සයිකල් එකක් ගන්න අවකාශය ලැබලා දීලා තියෙනවා. ඉලෙක්ට්‍රොනික මෝටර් සයිකලයක් ගන්න. මේ 3000 අවස්ථාව දීලා තියෙන්නේ අවම අයට. ඒ කියන්නේ 3000ට වඩා වැඩි නම් එවප මුදල 5000 නම් 2500ට අදාළ CIF වැලියු එක. ඒ කියන්නේ මූලික මේ වටිනාකමට ගෙන්නන්න පුළුවන් බදු රහිත මිලට ගෙන්නන්න පුළුවන්. රෝද දෙකේ වාහන. ඒ කියන්නේ මෝටර් සයිකල්. හැබැයි අපි 3 wheeler සඳහා මේ සඳහා අවකාශයක් ලබා දෙන්නේ. අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා මේ රටේ 3 wheel ප්‍රමාණය බොහොමත්ම ප්‍රමාණවත් තව මේ රටට 3 wheeler එන්න ඕනි නෑ කියලා. ඒ නිසා 20000ට වැඩියෙන් එවලා තියෙනවා යම්කිසි පුද්ගලයෙක්. යම්කිසි පුද්ගලයෙක් 20000ට වැඩියෙන් ඕන ප්‍රමාණයක් එවලා තියෙනවා නම් ඩොලර් 65000ක උපරිමය දක්වා යවන ලද මුදලෙන් භාගයක මුදල ඩොලර් 65000ක් දක්වා වාහනයක් ආනයනය කරන්න අවසර දෙනවා. මේකත් විද්‍යුත් වාහනයක් විතරයි.
Private sector borrowing had declined for the first time in 2 years in June amidst high rates of interest, economic crisis and uncertainty. Central bank data shows that outstanding credit extended to the private sector declined 40.6 billion rupees in June to 7.714 trillion rupees from 7.754 trillion rupees in May. Analysts maintain that this is the first drop since May 2020, the height of COVID pandemic. In May 2020, credit extended to the private sector dropped 69.6 billion rupees to 5.888 trillion rupees, and the decline continued till July to 5.830 trillion rupees before rebounding in August 2020 to 5.9 trillion rupees. Weekly average weighted prime lending rate, or AWPR, for the week ending 29 July 2022 increased 141 basis points to 24.94% compared to the previous week. It was 5.7% last year. The fall in June comes after the previous month only saw a 2 billion rupee increase over April. Following the devaluation of the rupee in March and repricing of US dollar loans, credit outstanding to the private sector soared to 7.530 trillion rupees from 7 trillion rupees in February. Despite the fall in private sector borrowing, net credit to government from the banking system increased 178.2 billion rupees to 6.6777 trillion rupees in June 2022. Outstanding credit to public corporations declined 21 billion rupees to 1.730 trillion rupees in June 2022. Broad money expanded 17.1% on a year-on-year basis in June 2022. The reserve money decreased compared to the previous week, mainly due to decrease in the deposits held by the commercial banks with the central bank and decrease in the currency in circulation. The total outstanding market liquidity was a deficit of 595.388 billion rupees at the end of last week, compared to a deficit of 591.748 billion rupees at the end of the week prior. Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break.
Sponsored by
Manage all your SLT Mobitel services through the MySLT app.
Welcome back after the break. Foreign mutual funds which have exposure to Sri Lankan equities have posted steep losses in their net asset values this year. This has prompted fund managers to look for ways to trim their holdings and switch to alternative markets. According to Refinitiv Lipper, the top 8 overseas funds that have exposure to Sri Lanka have dropped 14.8% this year on average. That's a lot better than the Sri Lanka's Colombo Stock Exchange all-share index decline of 38% so far in 2022. The Tundra Sustainable Frontier Fund, ASEC, which had about 3.14% exposure to Sri Lanka, has lost 10.52% this year, while Harvest Asia Frontier Equity JJPY ACC and Holberg Rurik declined 9.6% and 14.5% respectively. According to Chief Investment Officer at the Swedish Fund Manager Tundra Fonder, AB Matthias Martinsson, during 2022, Sri Lankan exposure has negatively impacted performance by about 3%. However, he maintained that the fund stock selection in Vietnam and Indonesia has helped it outperform its benchmark despite the negative impact from Sri Lanka. Overseas funds that have holding in Sri Lanka equities have also faced sharp outflows in the past few months. The iShares MSCI Frontier and Select EMETF witnessed $50.12 million of net selling in first half of the year, while Quali Frontier Markets ISEC had outflows worth $19.6 million. Sri Lanka is facing its worst economic crisis in 7 decades, unable to pay for essential imports such as fuel, medicine due to severe shortage of foreign exchange. Consumer confidence as measured by the Sri Lanka Opinion Tracker Survey by the Institute for Health Policy continued to drop from already at extremely low levels. The public continues to indicate they believe conditions will worsen in coming months and years. The IHP Sri Lanka Opinion Tracker Survey was launched to track public experience and opinion during the recovery from COVID-19. It is run by the Institute for Health Policy, which is an independent, non-partisan research centre based in Colombo, Sri Lanka. IHP's indices of consumer sentiment, consumer expectation and current conditions continue to be highly pessimistic, declining further in June 2022. IHP's consumer confidence measures declined throughout the month of June, falling to their lowest value since IHP started tracking them in September 2021 and in all cases very close to their lowest possible level. The Index of Consumer Sentiment, which is the broadest measure reflecting the public's views on their personal economic status and the broader national economy, fell 4 points from 6 in May to 2 in June, close to its lowest potential level of 0. The Index of Consumer Expectation, which captures Sri Lanka's views about the future, also fell from 4 points to 1 in June, indicating that sentiment is being driven by increasing lack of confidence in the future. The Index of Consumer Conditions, a broad measure of perceptions about current conditions, also fell from 6 to 4 in June. This worsening in sentiment is despite the resignation of the Prime Minister and Cabinet in early May, but coincided with the growing numbers of people turning out on the street and calls for the President to resign. The deterioration in the economic situation with continuing power cuts, lack of fuel and transport, and worsening shortages of items undoubtedly contribute. Overall, the public remained deeply pessimistic about the conditions and the future during June. The 43rd anniversary of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority was celebrated yesterday at the Sri Sambuddha Jayanti Chaitya premises. Speaking at the event, Secretary of the Ministry of Ports and Shipping, KDS Ruwan Chandra, said that the Sri Lanka Ports Authority can further strengthen the national economy. Secretary Ruwan Chandra requested all employees and trade unions to support efforts to enhance productive and protect the institution. Chairman of Sri Lanka Ports Authority, Dr. Prasanta Jayamana, said that the challenging situation faced by the SLPA since 2019 due to the COVID-19 pandemic was clear to everyone. The chairman added that while the rest of the country was at a standstill, operations at the Colombo port continued uninterrupted due to the strength of the management, employees and collaborative assistance from other Port of Colombo terminals. Further speaking, the chairman said that the Port of Colombo had made 2021 a record year with 7.25 million containers handled, the highest number of containers handled within a year. Currently, 2022 first quarter performance has outdone that of last year. Regarding the East Container Terminal, the chairman commended that construction is being carried out successfully and the up-to-date information is available on the official SLPA website. On the matter, he added that all steps to purchase essential machinery and equipment for the East Container Terminal have been initiated. Turning to projects outside Colombo, the chairman commented that development of the ports of Galle and Trincomalee are also underway. The chairman said that the SLPA was a public institution with a mission to fulfill a national requirement of nourishing the economy, and therefore all its employees were also a part of the national task force. He expressed confidence that all employees of the institution would extend their best performance and contribution during the national crisis to efficiently and reproductively elevate the national economy. Stay tuned for stock updates.
Feel it? Do you like it? Do you want it?
So good! I love it!
Okay, then buckle up, put the pedal to the metal, and let's ride. Rev on DW.
Manage all your SLT Mobitel services through the MySLT app.
Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a positive note today. The All-Share Price Index gained 138.95 points to close at 7,907.52, and the S&P SL20 gained 67.73 points to close at 2,512.82. The turnover was 2.3 billion rupees and over 93 million shares were traded. Up next are Forex Rates. And that's all news for today. See you tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Until then, take care and good night.
State of Business was sponsored by
Manage all your SLT Mobitel services through the My SLT app.